What's up, guys, and welcome back to another video. Today we're covering part 2 of exercises that help improve jiu-jitsu performance. All of these exercises are handpicked by me because they directly correlate to jiu-jitsu movements and will help improve your performance on the mats. If you haven't seen part 1 yet, make sure you go check it out either before or after this video. So without further gun bumping, let's jump in. Up first on our list today, Zercher lunges. I specifically love this exercise because it directly correlates to jiu-jitsu performance. These are great for finishing takedowns such as double leg takedowns and even single leg takedowns. Because you're holding the weight in the crook of your arms, it's in front of your spine instead of on your back, which means the weight is going to want to pull you forward, thus working on your back muscles or those posterior chain muscles that are going to keep you strong and upright, all the while focusing on the quads and the glutes of the leg that's forward. And to sweeten the pot, you have to keep your core engaged to keep yourself from falling to the left, to the right, forwards, or backwards. This is what I like to call a powerhouse compound movement, and it directly correlates to some of the takedown power you're gonna need in double legs and single legs. And if you pay attention to my form, I'm letting my back knee touch the ground each time. I'm not letting it slam on the ground, I'm letting it kiss the ground or lightly touch. This is to ensure I'm utilizing full and proper range of motion. I've mentioned this in previous videos. We want to get the most out of our exercises by using the full range of motion. I don't want part of the muscle to be strong, I want the entire muscle to be strong, and that's what we get from full range of motion. So make sure that back leg is touching the ground on each rep. You're also gonna wanna focus on curling your back in. You want your spine pressing forward towards your belly button. The last thing you want to do is have your back rounded forward. That's a great way to herniate a disc. Trust me, safety above all things. If you have to drop the weight, set your ego aside and drop the weight. There's nothing wrong with that, I promise you. Doing big weight with bad form isn't doing you any good, especially if you injure yourself. So trust me, it's okay to drop the weight to get the form correct. Above all else, I want you to be safe because that's going to give you longevity in your training. Next up on the list, landmine squats to press. This is another powerhouse compound movement because we are combining landmine squats and landmine presses. You'll notice as I sit back into my squatted position, I go very deep because I want that full range of motion. You'll notice that as I stand or squat back up into the standing position, I'm also beginning to extend my arms into the military press. The idea here is that it's not a segmented movement. I'm not squatting and then pressing. I'm doing it all at once. It takes a little bit more coordination this way, but that's a lot of what jiu-jitsu is. Essentially, we're multitasking with our movements in jiu-jitsu, so we want to be able to do that as much as we can outside of the mats as well. Obviously, not every exercise is designed to be this way. That's why this is such a great opportunity to use this one. It is designed to be a multitasking kind of movement. The idea here is that you're going to do the eccentric movement or setting back into the starting position nice and slow, and the concentric movement when you're extending to the finishing position explosively. Now, if this is your first time doing this movement, I highly recommend doing the whole thing nice, slow, and controlled until you get the movement down. The last thing I want you to do is be explosive with bad form. That's where we see devastating injuries. So make sure you get the form down. Once you do, then you can focus on being explosive on the way back up. This is a really beautiful exercise because you're hitting so many muscles at once. Your glutes, your quads, your calves, your core to stabilize on the way up, your shoulders, your triceps, and even some forearms because you have to hold that bar in nice and tight on the way up. Just like in jiu-jitsu, we're using multiple muscles all at once, and I really like to incorporate compound movements because it's about as similar as you can get to jiu-jitsu without actually doing jiu-jitsu. So if you aren't doing this one yet, I highly recommend it. I think it'd be a nice addition to any workout regimen. Next up on our list, bent over barbell rows. This is another one where I want you to focus on getting the form down first before you add in a lot of weight. Of course, this is one of those ones that looks really cool if you can do a ton of weight, but what's not cool is doing it with incorrect form and hurting yourself. There's already enough risk in doing jiu-jitsu by itself. We don't need to add to that by doing improper form in our exercises in the gym. With this one, you'll notice that my knees are slightly bent and I'm keeping my back bent at about a 40 or 35 degree angle. I'm not completely at 45 degrees and I'm not completely parallel to the ground either. I'm somewhere right in between, probably around like a 35 degree mark. I'm using an overhand grip and I'm pulling the bar all the way up to my diaphragm or the area just below my ribs. As I lower the weight to the ground, you'll notice that I let my shoulders roll forward. And as I pull the weight back up to my torso, I squeeze my shoulder blades together. Again, using that full range of motion to maximize muscle activation. This one can be tricky for many people because we aren't pulling with our arms, we're pulling with our back. And one mental trick I use to make sure I'm doing that is I picture there's two ropes, one tied to each elbow, that are are drawing my arms back. And in doing so, I focus more on using my back muscles to lift the weight rather than my arms. Also notice how I'm not being sloppy here. I'm not letting my body rock a whole lot. I'm doing my best to stay stationary, and I'm using nice, slow, and controlled movements. But when it comes to the eccentric movement, lowering the weight back down, I want you to go nice, slow, and controlled. Here you can see me switching to an underhand grip. I do prefer to switch grips sometimes because sometimes our grips are going to switch in jiu-jitsu. By using an underhand grip, we're just going to hit a lower portion of our lats, whereas an overhand grip will hit the muscles higher up on our back. When it comes to your grips, you'll probably find that you like one more than the other. It really comes down to athlete preference, but I like to use both for a more well-rounded effect. Moving into the last two exercises of this video, we will be focusing on core. In part one of this series, I had a couple people ask for more core exercises. Core is obviously a very important piece to the puzzle when it comes to jiu-jitsu performance, so we're going to cover exactly that with these. Now, it's important to remember that these two exercises are going to be difficult for beginners, so I will provide beginner variations for both of these. The first core exercise we will be covering is windshield wipers. As you can see, it is a bit of a complex movement. This movement right here is going to hit everything from our transverse abdominis, our obliques, and even our rectus abdominis, or our six-pack muscles. It's also going to test your grip strength as well, as you have to hold onto that bar to keep yourself suspended in the air. And to put the cherry on top, because you have to move your feet from 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock back to 9 o'clock, this is going to work on your torso mobility as well, which is obviously very important in jiu-jitsu. If this is your first time doing this or even seeing this, it's probably not likely that you're going to be able to perform it, and that's okay. I couldn't do this the first time I saw it. I have a variation for you that'll help you get there. So as you see here, I'm mimicking the movement I was doing by hanging in the air, except I'm laying on the ground with my arms out to my sides to stabilize my body. This may feel a bit clunky at first, and it's going to feel like your arms or hands are going to want to come off the ground a little bit. That's okay. Don't let it stress you out. You don't have to be perfect at this right away. Remember, even doing this on the ground as the beginner variation, it's still difficult even for me. So if you are a beginner, I highly recommend just using your own body weight for this one. As you begin to excel and improve, you can start holding onto a 5-pound dumbbell between your feet, a 10-pound dumbbell, a 15-pound dumbbell. Eventually, the goal is to move to the pull-up bar and be able to do these in the air. If I could give you any advice, just be patient. Don't rush it. This is a long process. It's a very tricky movement to do this from the pull-up bar, so don't beat yourself up over it. Just continue to try it and try it and try it some more, and eventually you'll get there. Doing the beginner variation on the ground is still going to highly benefit your jiu-jitsu game. Last but certainly not least, ab rollouts. Most gyms will have a little ab wheel that you can use, but for some reason these things love to go missing. So if that's the case, all you really need is a bench press bar and 2 circular weights. I like to use the 45-pound plates, not because they're heavier, but because I like the distance it puts the bar from the ground. If you're a beginner at this, I highly recommend starting on your knees. You want to slowly and in a controlled way let the weight roll out in front of you until you're extended completely. Once you're in the fully extended position, you're using your abs to curl in to bring the weight back. A lot of beginners make the mistake of using their arms to pull the weight back in towards their body. That's not what we're doing here. You're using your abdominal muscles to squeeze in, bringing the weight towards you. Something to remember here is the further you extend that weight out in front of you, the harder it is to bring it back. So if you truly are a beginner, only extend out as much as you can handle and then work on extending further each and every time you do it. Eventually you get to the point where you're completely extended out and your body will be parallel to the ground. Once you've gotten to that level, you can really step this up, not by adding on more weight, but by starting from your feet. This version is much more difficult, but the same principles apply. As I extend out, I like to let my belly barely touch the ground. I'm not laying my weight on the ground, but it's a landmark I use to know that I'm pretty close to full extension. And just like in the beginner variation, you don't want to let your arms do the work. I'm not trying to roll the weight under my body here. I want to use my abs to pull me in and up. As I watch my own footage, I see that I am using my arms a little bit, and that's just something I'm going to work on. It's okay if you don't do it perfectly, as long as you're moving towards progress. That's all that really matters. Don't focus on being perfect, just focus on being better. I could have easily cut that part out, but I want to be fully transparent with you guys in these videos. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to learn alongside you guys, and I wanted you to see exactly what that looked like. So in the meantime, I'll be working on cleaning up that form. I love working on improving my core strength for jiu-jitsu because there are so many times where that's going to come in handy. The biggest one I can think of is when you're holding someone in your guard and you want to curl them in close to you with your legs, or maybe you're shooting a triangle and you need to curl their head closer to your body so you can help lock up that triangle. And these are just a couple examples off the top of my head. Having a stronger core is going to make you harder for your opponent to deal with. It's going to make your submissions that much more effective, and it's going to give you more stamina. Nothing's worse than having one single body part gas out in the middle of a fight, and you definitely don't want that body part to be your core. As we close out the video, I think it's really important to note that strength is a really important tool in jiu-jitsu as long as you aren't using it as a crutch to skip over your technique. Many people will say you can only get so far with only technique. Well, I'm gonna say you can only get so far with only strength. It's definitely a balancing act, and I think both attributes are very important. So as long as you can walk that fine line and not let one outweigh the other, I think you're gonna do really, really well. I think a smart jiu-jitsu practitioner allows strength and technique to complement each other rather than butting heads with each other. And that's the video, guys. I hope you got something out of it. Make sure to comment down below your favorite exercises. Let me know if you think I missed something. Let me know if you think I should add something in. We can all learn from each other here. That's what this community and this channel is all about. I want to help people learn. I want to help people grow. And you guys who comment your knowledge are definitely a part of that. And I appreciate you all. And with that being said, you know how we like to end them. Eat plants, train hard, and feel good. I'll see you in the next one. And I almost forgot to say, I have more athlete recipes, fitness, and jiu-jitsu content on the way. If you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead, hit that button. I'd love to have you along for the ride. I'll see you in the next one.